Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to be working with fractions, and more specifically, one of my favorite ways to represent fractions is fractions on a number line. So we will be doing that today. Now, all of our fractions that we will be discussing today will fall between 0 and 1. So I've drawn a bunch of different number lines. They're all the same length. I did that on purpose. So here we have the beginning of the number line represents 0, and over here the end of our number line represents 1. Normally when we see number lines in the past, we count by 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So now we're zooming in on that number line, and we're focusing in the space just between 0 and 1, and that is where fractions fall. Regular fractions. We will see irregular fractions moving forward. Not today. Okay, so first I'm going to show you how to draw a number line that represents halves, thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, sevenths, and eighths, because you will be required in the future to draw these things with a paper and pencil. Okay, so the first thing that we'll start with, the easiest one, is halves. Okay, so when you're trying to draw halves on a number line, you literally draw a line directly cutting the line in half. So halfway is right here. Okay, and now on our number line we have the number 0, the number 1, and the number 1/2. Okay, the number 1 can also be represented as 2 halves. Because remember our work over the last 2 days, we learned that a whole can be represented with a numerator and denominator of the same digit, so 2 halves is 1 whole. Okay, now, before I move on to thirds, also remember this represents the unit fraction 1/2. So I'm going to review unit fractions as well today. Okay, now 1/3, it's a little bit harder to draw because you can't draw it directly cutting the line in half, so we have to try to visualize with our eyes 3 equal places. So I know that, let me redraw this because that's not really, let me see. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. And here is 1/2. Okay, so now I'm going to divide this next number line into thirds. So it's less than 1/2, and I have to try to visualize it so that each space is equal. Okay, so I did the best that I could. I have about 3 equal spaces. So here is the unit fraction 1/3. This here is 2/3, and then this here, 1 whole, is 3/3. Okay, so that's how you can divide a number line into thirds. Now, dividing a number line into fourths is a little bit easier. Actually, whenever it's an even digit in the denominator, like halves, fourths, sixths, and eighths, it's a little bit easier because we can start by drawing a line, cutting the line in half. Okay, so I know that that's 1/2. Again, if it's a little off, I'm just doing the best that I can. That's 1/2. Now, since 2 and 4 are related because 2 is half of 4, now that I'm dividing it into fourths, I can cut these 2 pieces in half. And now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. Here is my unit fraction for 1/4. Again, here's 0. And then, so this would be 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. 4 equal spaces, not 4 lines, 4 equal spaces. Okay, fifths is a little bit harder because I can't start by dividing it in half. But if I think about where 1/4 is, I can go a little bit smaller than that to get 1/5. And now I need to space that evenly for a total of 5 spots, 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, sorry if it's a little bit off. I'm just doing the best I can. Here's 0, 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, and 5/5. By the way, remember that I told you, now that we're going to move on to another even digit in the denominator, okay, 1/2, 2/4, and 3/6 are equal. Okay. Let's see. Now, okay, so I'm going to need 6 parts. So now I need there to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I need to divide this half into 3 equal parts. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3. And now I need to divide this half into 3 equal parts. Okay, so here's my 3/6, my 1/2. So then I made 1, 2, 3, and I made 1, 2, 3 on each side. Here is my unit fraction, 1/6. It's a little bit smaller than 1/5. Okay, now I'll divide into sevenths. Now, again, it's an odd digit in the denominator, so I can't just start by dividing it in half. But what I know is that in order to start at 0 and get 7 equal parts, I'll need 6 lines. So it's 7 parts, but only 6 lines in between will give me the 7 parts. So I have to just try my best to space it out. I'll start here, since this is 1/6, 1/7 is going to be a little bit smaller. So, and then I'll space that out as best I can. So here's 1/7. A little smaller than 1/6, and now I'm just gonna, that's 1 line, now I need 5 more lines. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and here would be the 7th line. Okay, so just to double check, 1/7, 2/7, 3/7, 4, 5, 6, 7/7 equals 1 whole. 3/3 equals 1 whole, 4/4, 5/5, 6/6, and 7/7. Now 8ths is actually not that hard to do because I can start by drawing a line dividing my number line between 0 and 1 in half. Okay, so it's 8ths, so half of 8 is 4, so this is 4/8, squeeze it in there, 4/8. Okay, now if I cut that part in half, now my number line is divided into 4ths, so it goes 2. If you double 2, you get 4. If you double 4, you get 8. So I did 4/8, and then I cut that in half to get 4ths. And now if I divide each of these spaces in half, I'll get 8ths. And now let's double check. Here's 0, 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and 8/8. Okay, 8/8 equals 1 whole, and here's the, okay, now this should be smaller. So again, this isn't perfect, but I did the best I could, so here's 1/8. Okay, and now I want to review the unit fractions. So when you have 1/2, okay, as the denominator grows in size, that means you're getting more spaces. So the fraction actually gets smaller. So 1/2, 1/3, 1/4, 1/5, 1/6, 1/7, and 1/8. You see that unit fraction growing smaller. Perfect visual for representing and comparing unit fractions with a 1 on top. Unit 13 talks about comparing fractions. Okay, I think that is all I wanted to discuss as far as these number lines go. Now, if I asked you to find 5/6, you'd go to sixths and you'd count 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'd have to find the number line that has 6 equal parts. Again, you're counting, start at 0, and you're counting the jumps or the spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if I wanted 5/6, you label it right here, 5/6. And you can do that anywhere. Let's say I wanted you to show 3/4. Go to find the number line that has 4 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here it is. So we're going to do 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. Here's 3/4. Usually in class, what I do with my students is I give them one of these. We first label the unit fraction, then we label all of them. Okay, so we get used to it, but we obviously can't do that. I don't have the paper to give you. Okay, now, you might see a problem today that asks you to tell who represented the fraction properly. I'm going to draw 2 fractions on these 2 separate number lines. These number lines are 2 kids drawing 2 different number lines. Okay, and now I might ask you, which of these 2 students, student A or student B, represented 1/2 properly? Did this student represent 1/2, or did this student represent 1/2 properly? If you guessed that each student represented 1/2 properly, but their number lines are different sizes, then you're correct. Now, we can't compare these fractions to each other like we did here, because you can only compare fractions when you're talking about objects of the same size. But this student represented a number line with 1/2 properly, and so did this student. It's just that they drew 2 different lines, 2 different sizes. Here are 3 different ways to represent a fraction. You can do it the way we've written them, with a numerator and denominator. Remember, the number on top is the numerator, and it talks about the number of parts you're discussing, or the number of jumps you're discussing on a number line. Okay, so it means 1 out of 2. This represents 1 out of 2 as well, 1/2 as well. And then this also represents 1 out of 2, or 1/2. All right, finally, a lot of your work will look like this today. It will have a number line between 0 and 1. You'll have to decide the numerator and the denominator. The numerator is the number of jumps the dot is along, the point is along, and the denominator is the number of total parts. So the first thing you should do, it doesn't really matter which you do first, but I'll say first find the numerator, the north number on top. So let's find that first. 1, starting at 0. I'll even draw the jumps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, here we have 6. And let's find out of how many? Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so a lot of your work, that's 6/8, a lot of your work will be like that today. That about does it for fractions on a number line for today. You'll have your 12-4 practice buddy, and I hope that you do well with it, and I hope that you learn something new. All right, have a great day.